I am excited to introduce our special guest of the evening tonight. This is Executive Director, GMTSS Director, a mentor, a friend, and somebody I also get to call Dad. Please welcome to the TalkShop Broadcast, David Whiten.
Whoa!
Oh God.
Okay.
What is up,
schedule.
Hot Shoppers? What is up? This is perfect. I've loved this from the beginning. I started jumping on right away because I like talking and my wife likes shopping. And so there's something for everyone here. You guys cover all your bases. This is exciting.
Well, wow. We are pumped to have you tonight. And I don't think there's a better topic for you specifically than the power of the mind. And specifically when I think of power of the mind, I think of somebody that can take, like, it's one thing to sustain your life or to kind of tread, from wherever you began, you kind of tread and you kind of, you meet or match wherever your parents got to. But it's another thing when you take what you were given in life and you expand it so dramatically. And that's one thing I think you've really done well. And we're excited to have you on here tonight to talk about the power of the secret weapon of the mind.
It is my secret weapon, my brain. Yeah, it is. What a 2019. It continuously hits me that everyone, I'd say around the world, but let's just say developing countries, and that people have an opportunity to change their life, not just in a generation or two, but within a few years. It can totally rewrite their script. And we've always kind of believed, and it's kind of been a historical precedents. People have always talked about that the past doesn't have to equal to the future. That's not a new thing. That's been around for a long time. But there's never been a time, when you watch a historical movie, the Bravehearts or Pride and Prejudice, or anything really previous to 100 years ago, your lot in life for the most part was predetermined before you hit the ground. And nowadays, some of the things that we struggle with a little bit as a profession is people have such a good life already. They know they could increase their income if they just started whistling where they already work. So they know they could already do better. They're just kind of satisfied. Sometimes it might be the lifestyle or something else, because you can suck and have a really good life in 2019 in most parts of the world. People complain about maybe not being where they want to be, but holy cow, most people can walk over and they can change the temperature in their house by 2 degrees, just boop, boop, and then go sit back down on their couch and stream.
Isn't that horrible?
Go and explain that, to anybody in the 1600s that had to cut wood, something to heat their home. Or, there's so much to be thankful for. Most everybody listening to this broadcast has access to books, knowledge, and information. Explain that to somebody in the 1600s. It was only available if your parents owned lots of land. Land was the only currency in order to, dictate your future. And if you weren't born with it, you weren't going to get it. You worked on someone else's land, and I don't care really what country, where you were from. You weren't going to change your lot in life, in a generation, by smiling while you do your job. Hey, this guy's got management written all over him. We're going to move him up. It's like, no, you were a peasant, and that was going to be your thing, and it wasn't going to change. Now, it used to be only the wealthy had access to books, knowledge, and information. I mean, Colton was at our house this last weekend, and my wife and I were discussing something, and he goes, well, here's the real deal. He Googled it and researched it and found out the real thing in like 15 seconds. Yeah. There's no longer a need to wonder anything, in 2019. We have access to all of those things. And then travel. Everybody that's watching this broadcast has probably been to a different city than they live in, probably been to a different state. A lot of people have been to a different country than you live in. And man, I mean, Jesus didn't make it more than about 60, 70 miles from where he was born. I mean, most people didn't have the ability, unless you had massive wealth, to travel. But if you had massive wealth to create the supplies for you to travel, that means you needed hired guards to protect your wealth and your food as you traveled in the past. So you needed an entourage, not like a Jennifer Lopez entourage or a Fat Joe entourage, but like we're talking military force around you to travel to another country, and visit. So, kings in the past would trade places with most people listening to this broadcast tonight. I mean, all four of us here sharing ideas and best practices. I mean, it's such an honor to be with you guys and to be a part of what you guys are doing. And there's never been a point in time in human history where the things we're talking about, everyone that's listening can grab a hold of them, apply them, use them, and change their life, in a month. in months. Within a year, you can change the whole script, what your life's about. I mean, how exciting is that?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the boiled down seed of everything that we talk about, everything that we do, is that 1 year from now, everything can be completely different. That we call ourselves hope dealers, that, you whatever today is, it doesn't have to be locked in for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And I've heard you guys talk a lot about keys, and you guys have a lot of keys, like keys to get out of the door of mediocrity, keys to get out of this. And what do you feel like were some of the keys for you, specifically relating back to the power of the mind, to get you from, and probably some of you guys have heard their story, but at 23 years old, they already had me. They were pregnant with my younger sister. Things weren't looking quite like the brochure of life had pitched them at that point, and we're able to go from, my dad was donating plasma and working 4 jobs, 100 hours a week, clocked in at 4 different jobs, to within 9 months of starting this business, they were annualized out as supervising coordinators at $100,000 a year, and then quickly grew from that to director and executive director, and we're able to live a pretty amazing lifestyle. But in order to grow so dramatically, something has to change here first. What was some of that change, that metamorphosis process for you like?
Man, you're doing so good. I don't even want to interrupt you. Keep going. You said I was just jump on here for like 5 minutes. I know you guys all have things to be adding to this, so it's a big topic to hit in a few minutes. I was joking with Stacy on a little bit ago. I said, yeah, Colton wants to jump on for like 5 minutes on their talk shop to talk about the power of the mind. I'm like, yeah, we'll cover that. Then what else do you want me to cover? Also like the mysteries of what it takes to please women or something. Really easy things that you can just cover in a minute. Complicated issues. Probably the greatest thing that I've learned from JR in this process, and it began to be introduced to me through my older brother, is this idea that for your world to change, for things to change, you have to change. And to the degree that you're willing to focus on your own personal responsibility, what role do I play in because everybody has a sad story. I love the movie Jerry Maguire. He's on his date with Renee Zellweger, and they kind of start talking, and she goes, Jerry, she said, how about let's just don't share our sad stories, and because everybody's got one. And so to the degree when you're talking about a story, it's important to realize that you're at a certain place in it, and you're continuously writing it. You're not at the end. You're in the middle. I love reading, biographies, and there's some places like in Lincoln's own journals where he's almost suicidal. He's so depressed he can't hardly function. He's lost the love of his life, the woman he was truly passionate about, and like all hope is gone. And I'm like, dude, you don't even understand. Like the whole reason you're here hasn't even started yet. I mean, your story is like you're not even to the good stuff. But we all have a story. We all have a biography, and in that place, at any moment, what makes our business exciting is because it reveals you to you. And you can kind of have some things that you can get along pretty well and do well, maybe at a job that you've had for 30 years. You feel like you've had 30 years of experience, but really you had 1 year of experience. You repeated 30 more times, and you can sort of mask your weaknesses. Maybe you got a problem with the truth, or you got a problem with accountability, or you drink a little too much, or you got some things you don't keep your word, or and you can function in your thing. But then all of a sudden, this business, while it's an even playing field for everybody, it tends to reveal you to you in a bigger way than ever. And the biggest thing that it reveals to you is that you're at a place in your story, you're creating it, and when you look at every moment previous, the common denominator of every experience was you. And when I say you, I guess if I only have a couple of minutes to share with you guys, like the biggest thing I really try to just if I grab everybody's ears and just shake them, is that there's something to you that's more significant than your fingers and your skin. Like this isn't me. This is David's finger, but this isn't David. It's like I can gain 100 pounds, I can lose 100 pounds, but there's something more to me than that. I can lose my arms and my legs, and I'm still me. And the me is the part of me that exists when my eyes are closed. That it's what separates me from my dog. I've been amazing. I'm probably the best dog in the whole world. He's a Doberman. He's faster, than your dog. He's probably smarter than your dog. He can run 40 miles an hour. He can jump over a 6-foot fence.
Every time not the dog bouncing around in the background, right?
No, that's mom's dog. That's a whole different thing. He can run 40 miles an hour. He can jump over a 6-foot fence. Every time I take a picture with him, I look at it and think, oh my God, my dog's better looking than I am. And as great as he is, though, he can't sit there and dream of a better life for himself. He's sort of static in his approach. And the thing that very few humans take advantage of, and the thing that separates us from dogs or even trees or anything else is we can choose, okay, every day prior to today, I thought a certain way and I got a certain result, but I can change that at any time. My brother told me a story one time. We grew up in a small town in central Kansas, right in the middle of the United States. We didn't have, I wouldn't have even, just very basic existence as far as our exposure to wealth or abundance or prosperity or just really much of anything. Most people I didn't know at that point had even flown on a plane or anything. But my older brother, he got a basketball scholarship to play in Los Angeles, and when he was sitting on the seat about to get off of the plane, he thought, there's people here to pick me up, and they don't know me. And they don't know if I'm shy or outgoing. They don't know if I'm funny or boring. They don't know if I'm a nerd or I'm cool. And it kind of hit me that when I get off this plane, everything that was me, like I can sort of like leave anything that's back and like I can reinvent myself, so to speak. If I want to be more confident, I want to be more outgoing. And it's like, it hit him in that moment because it was such a big thing. He's nervous and intimidated and scared leaving a small town and going to Los Angeles. But we all have that opportunity every single day. And what makes us different than the dogs is when we wake up, it's the thoughts that we think are a preview of the words that we say, which are like the movie trailer to the life we're about to live. Very rarely does success ever catch people off guard and surprise you. People are like, I just went to work and was coming home, went to work, came home, and I don't know, the money started piling up. It was, it caught me off guard because we all know of people who their income exploded and they didn't, and they stayed where they are. Lottery winners are synonymous with being broke. First draft NFL picks, multi-million dollars instantly, but it's synonymous with poverty. They end up within 3 years being typically penniless, and broke in their relationships and broke financially. And so we all are, should be a little leery or afraid of getting $1 million without becoming a millionaire. Jim Rohn talks about that. So our business, what's great about it is it reveals you to you and allows you to become a millionaire at the same pace that you're getting $1 million. So, you don't want to get $1 million without becoming a millionaire. But there's really no other arena other than what we offer, in our business model that helps people to grow and become a millionaire as they're acquiring $1 million, which is really rare. And it's why I sleep so good at night, because if somebody's a part of my business for a year, they're better off because of it. If they leave and they quit or something happens, they move to Greece and start a taco stand or change their life doing something, like they just take another turn, they've come closer to growing mentally and understanding the connection between what I think and the results I'm getting in life because of the time they spent with us. We begin exposing them that maybe just a different language. Step one is like, how can we get people to stop talking about the things that they don't want? And giving a lot of energy towards, it's a poverty mentality to give energy to things that you can't control. Complaining about the weather, complaining about the traffic, complaining about the price of gas. Have you seen how much gas is? No, I never look at the price of gas. Right. I mean, if I was like the president or as a Saudi prince or somebody maybe who controlled the price of gas, I would give it some energy. In the meantime, I just fill it up when it's empty because I can't control that. But somebody will give a lot of energy to being all mad about the gas price, but not giving a lot of thought towards envisioning their marriage, growing and blossoming and being more fruitful, or meditating, giving thought towards like, how can I have more joy in my day? Right. Like what are the things that I ignored today that could have brought me joy, but I didn't see them because I was so, sideways about the gas price or you know, some political thing that may or may not happen, or just all these things are outside your control. Those are all connected to having a poverty mindset, which mindset we're trying to help people to grow from a poverty mindset to abundance and prosperity. And you know, step one of that process is really realizing that money, dollars, are a currency. They're one.
Right.
But you know, and during our Civil War, the South had a currency. You know, that pictures of Jefferson Davis, the president that they elected of the Southern states. They still exist. Those dollars exist. They're just not worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a currency. It's just not very valuable. You know, gold. We've decided gold blocks are worth a lot of money. If you had a big block of gold, that would be a good thing because we all agree that it's a valuable thing. But you know what else is a currency? Is so is my daughter's respect. Because if I lost it, what would I do to get it back? Well, if I would give anything to get it back, well, now that means it has value, and if it has value, it's a currency. Well, so is a hug. A hug is a currency. So is, you know, I could take a big breath of all the air I want right now. Well, if that was gone, what would I do to get back some more air? It would be really valuable. And so
EV and IBV is great currency.
Yep, we have all of these currencies around. Well, one of them is money, but we put so much focus on the dollars that sometimes, you know, we end up being very poor in other areas that matter. And all of these things are a currency if you can go up or down in the amount that you have. The number of friends, or, you know, all these things are a currency, the amount of joy in your life. And, you know, these are all a currency. So when you begin to operate from a place of like, okay, how do I increase in abundance? You know, abundance is, you know, that mindset of I'm coming from a place that whether I have it or I don't have it, but I have access to more than I need. And, you know, I don't know how much that is. Like, you know, if I have a glass, you know, and it's overflowing with water, it doesn't need to overflow like the ocean. Any overflow means abundance. And so I have an abundance of time because I create it and I measure it and I control it to the best that I can. You know, I try to eliminate things that waste my time, the holes in my bucket that are wasting, and you're always catching yourself with things, but things that I do that are a waste of time, usually I schedule them and they're on purpose. So an abundance of high fives and encouragement and friends and, you know, all of these kind of things. But the beginning for me happened in this business when, you know, JR began talking about the creation cycle, and he would reference little things from stage. And I would write that down. Then I would research, where did that come from? You know, where did that start? And so, again, my older brother was my tormentor. And all you guys have heard me say this, but he began telling me, yeah, some people have mentors. I had a tormentor. And he said, David, you're so far behind on where you need to be to lead an organization. You know, he said, you've got to read more. You know, we're on the phone, and I'm like, Kelly, I don't really like reading. I mean, how dumb is that? Okay, I mean, he wasn't where he wanted to be, but he was already a six-figure earner. He had 2 master's degrees. I'm struggling. You know, I mean, golly, if nobody takes any advice at all from anything these guys ever share with you on these future broadcasts, just nothing else, don't take advice from people more screwed up than you are in that specific category. You know, I'm sitting there broke, and I got somebody that's willing to share his best practices with me, and he says, you need to read more. And I'm like, well, I don't really like reading, which as if that was a part of his question. His command. He doesn't say, I like reading more. You know, he just said, you need to read more. I said, I don't really like reading. He paused for a minute on the phone. I'm sure on his end, it was like, you know, but he goes, do you like being broke? Like, okay, good question. Good statement. What should I start with? And he began making some suggestions, and it was really a very quick turnaround for me when I began realizing that every weakness I had, someone else had spent their entire life. They dedicated their whole life to that one thing, and they took it and they wrote it all down and they chopped it up into baby-sized bites. And they just, like right here, you can just, you know, just take a bite.
We can take advantage of that. That's right. Yeah.
In every single thing, whether it's, you know, sales or marriage or relationships or money management or self-esteem or fitness or and now it's even better, with the internet. I make leather bags as a hobby and all kinds of things. And I've never met somebody that knew how to do that. I learned it all on YouTube from people in Scotland and places, I don't even know about. So I began to read. And one of the first things I really jumped in and started with was a book called, yeah, you got one right there. I buy them, I give them out by the box, but As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Now, this isn't the one that I started with a few years ago. Stacy bought this for me. It's the first printing of this book ever, and so it's really valuable to me. And you can see, like, on the inside, it's like old school. This book is like over 100 years old, and the language in it is kind of difficult, it's by James Allen, and JR is one of the few people I know that's probably read it as many times as me. When I got this, I shared it with him, and I mean, JR, like, he stopped and he's like, wow, let me hold that, because it was like he knew it changed his life. And so some of these guys like Shad Helmstetter, and what do you say when you talk to yourself, and these kind of concepts. I had this in my pocket, not this one, but another one that was it was hardcover with a little yellow sleeve over it in my pocket for, definitely the first year. I never took it out of my pocket. But while I'm donating plasma at the Bijou Blood Bank 3 times a week, and that was after Master Coordinator. Like, I'm making money in the business, but I'm still needing to buy audio, so I need to cash every time we mailed in an order. And so I'm at the blood bank. You're with homeless people, and it's easy for your environment to become your expectation. And that's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because when you're surrounded by poverty, you see poverty, you're thinking about poverty, you dwell on the image that you've been placed in your mind, and even more importantly, the negativity that you hear. I can close my eyes, but I don't have earlids. I have eyelids, but I'm always hearing. And so it's hard, since I don't have earlids, it's very important that I'm trying to drown out the negativity so I couldn't be there in my body and in my mind and expect my outside world to change.
Yeah, that's a really scary thing, because we've just been talking about, like, us having as a species, we have this, like, we have full control, like, with our mind, but it's so scary that how little control we have over it. I mean, the environment we're in really it makes or breaks, and that's why it's important. That's why I'm so thankful for the GMTSS, and so glad we have locals and corporate events and big and small events. It's super important for mental health, and that
because it allows you to get better, and you're around people that speak on a higher level and begin to hold you accountable. Used to be a joke with Stacy and I. She'd let stuff slip about herself in frustration, and I'm like, if someone else said that about you, I'd punch them in the mouth. Like, I would never let somebody ever say something like that about you. And I want you to say that about you. And so you begin to hold each other accountable. Sometimes I'll get on something and I'll start using absolutes in my language, always and never and every time this guy never does this, or these kind of absolutes that are speaking death over a situation. And she'll just call me out on it. She's like, hey, anytime there's something that doesn't have hope in it, is rooted in a lie somewhere. So she'd be like, I love you, but I'm not going to partner with the words that you're speaking because they're death. And so, I'll partner with you in speaking what we do want in life over a situation as if it is. So speak life. I mean, you got to have this as an ongoing reminder that, everybody knows that Stephon Curry is not going to go to the free throw line and sit there and take a couple practice dribbles and say to himself, I suck at basketball. I'm probably going to miss this, and then take a shot. I mean, we know Tiger Woods isn't going to go to the tee and be like, I'm probably going to shank this off in the lake. Like, professional athletes don't do that. But what about professional husbands? What about professional entrepreneurs or professional friends or professional, I mean, why not apply that same kind of thing and be a pro, at everything that we do, and only speak life over where you're going. So, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up and let you guys get off. But this was a big change for me when I began to understand that every thought was a seed planted into the garden of my mind, and the fruits that were produced from it could always be traced back to a thought that I chose to dwell on or dismiss. And like a gardener, I became a gardener of my mind, and I began to think about the things I wanted. And I don't have a finished life, but I'm 46. I have kids that are grown, that are producing, that love me, that pursue me in relationship. I'm the first generation of being a good father, you know, in my family, everyone that shows up. So those things are all new. I literally have more money than I know what to do with. I've never had a cavity. I've never had one prescription in my entire life. Neither has my wife.
Me neither.
Neither of my kids have had a prescription or a cavity, you know. And I'm not saying it's all due to thoughts, but if you did a survey on everyone that grew up with me, everyone in my family, the kind of, you know, you would be like, wow, how'd this one end up so much different? Well, you say, well, he was just more blessed. No, you saw me when I found out about this business, and before these ideas, everything in my life was drama, dysfunction, disarray, and poverty. Poverty in my bank account, but more importantly, poverty in my thoughts, because I expected that, because that's who I was. Again, I'm not my fingers. I'm an accumulation of the thoughts that I choose to think and dwell on. And when those thoughts began to be introduced, when JR began to bring in higher level thinking, I began to get higher level thoughts. Another valuable thing I want to talk about, I have so many copies of this, but this is the original print. Hey, Colton's got one there too. But his isn't as awesome because this is the first copy of Think and Grow Rich. There were 5,000 copies when it first came out. He's got a little newer one. But we value these things because my life changed when these things came into my life. So like I have these really valuable assets in my office that I keep on display because 100 years before I was around, or, you know, 75, you know, someone took and they wrote down the best practices of the greatest minds in the world and put it in one place for me. And then just this thought, I was going to show you guys this real quick. When you get into this, you start realizing how many good things are out there. But, you know, people value drama sometimes more than having a great life. The clickbait on the internet, and there's not going to be anything on any news channel that's going to serve your future very well. But we're attracted to drama. Oh my gosh, there's gonna be a big storm. Oh my gosh, somebody was killed, somebody was raped, something happened. It's like, you know, all these things. And so sometimes you got to dig through all that stuff and find where are the really fruitful things. But very, very rarely is someone gonna come bang on your door and jam these things down your throat. But I began finding them, you know, on the internet. You know, people like Genevieve Berand, and in books that you can't even buy. I had to find ways to download them, and I got them spiral printed, you know, myself, and marked them up because they don't exist. You don't find these things at the Barnes and Noble. You know, I mean, I just show you this here. These are all books that I went and had made myself because you can't just get them anywhere else. Here's another you know, Charles Fillmore, and everything's got, you know, something about the mind on it. Extra writings by, you know, people like Earl Nightingale, and these people, they have writings and things that were published that never made it into the book form, or aren't available, or no longer written. So all these things are super exciting and super valuable to me because I started realizing whatever I want, somebody dedicated their whole life to it, and I could fill my mind with abundance and prosperity 15, 20, 30 minutes a day. And it's amazing over a few years. And you know what? A decade's going to pass anyway. So whether somebody builds this business or doesn't, so we have access. There's more good ideas on your guys' podcast each week than what people are going to find probably at their job in 10 years. And so, you know, you guys are all out there like little octopuses, grabbing and stealing and taking, and then you come here and you throw them all into a pot together, and then you're sharing it freely with the whole world. Anybody has access to all of your best practices. I mean, what a great time to be alive. You have access to books, knowledge, and information. Everybody has some free time. That's a new thing, me time. And everybody has access to travel and attend, you know, an event where you get to rub shoulders with people that want to help you get where they are. How good is that?
Super good.
You know what I'm wondering, David? I'm wondering how different would your reading habits, your life turn out if the first book that you came across wasn't As a Man Thinketh, but if let's say you came across Lord of the Rings, if that was the first book, I'm wondering how differently it would have turned out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when you get really hungry for, you know, you start asking the right questions. Most people don't get the right answers because they're not asking the right questions.
Right.
I think I was asking so many good questions because we had your skills will always adapt to the demand placed on them by your dreams. And so that's why it's so important to focus people back to their why and what they want. You know, most people talk about what they don't want, but when you talk about what do you want, and the push to dream big, because when you place a demand on your skills that's bigger than they currently have, your skills will always rise to the demand placed on them by your dreams. All dreams don't require much, and most people live mediocre lives because they have such limited clarity. They don't spend 10 minutes creating clarity about what do you want. Successful people, they always know what they want. You know, GR talks about holding the guy underwater until he knows he wants air. Everybody that succeeds knows what the air is. They know what they want. They know what they're trying to accomplish at Disney World on vacation. They know what ride they're going to do. I mean, it's like they know what they want because they spend the time. They have clarity in their thinking, clarity in their mind, clarity in their intentions, clarity in their words, clarity in their hearts about where they're going. It's pure. And that demand that places on your skill sets. It's like if you begin playing the guitar, your fingers hurt, but very quickly you get calluses and you don't feel it because your body adapts to the demand placed on it by your dream to impress girls by playing the guitar. You know, it's like, man, I really want to impress girls. How do I do it? Well, guitar players got lots of chicks. Okay, sweet. I'm gonna learn to play the guitar. So your body will even adjust to the demand placed on it by a big dream. And so, you know, the weights, you lift a heavier weight in the gym, you know, it's like, hey, well, why are you lifting weights? Well, I clearly want to have this thing happen. I want to be a professional athlete or something. So it's, you know, everything will adjust to the demand placed on it by a big dream. And so I think I began asking the right questions, and like you find your car, not someone else's car, when you walk out of the store, all of a sudden began popping out to me. When I found out Colton and Michaela are going to have a baby, it's like now I see babies everywhere. I mean, everywhere I go, like armies of babies all over the place, you know? I think I would have found good answers in Lord of the Rings because I was asking questions about how do I change my life? How do I become a person of impact? How do I provide for my family and my wife the way I told her that I would?
Love it. Has that changed? Has that changed? Like, you know, your dreams in the beginning versus now? Like, what's different, or what's stayed the same?
You know, it sounds, and when you're broke, you don't want to hear this, but when you realize how easy the money thing is to get out of the way, and the tangible, then you start realizing, like, okay, that's almost disappointing because you put on such a pedestal. Money becomes, you know, such a high value thing, and then you get it and you're like, oh, everything else is still the same. And so most of my big dreams now are much more in the unseen. You know, it's hard to measure quality of relationship. It's hard to measure multi-generational, not even contributions, but like I'm writing letters to great grandkids now. You know, I'm trying to put things in motion where not my money is going to be a legacy, but a way of thinking is a legacy. And so a scope beyond, you know, paying my bills, you know, and once you get that out of the way, you can begin thinking much more in non-tangible, which, you know, it sounds like, yeah, it sounds good to you, but I got to pay my rent and stuff. It's like there's been times in the last few years where we've lived on 10% of our income, and the rest you can like impact the world with. You know, the things that anger you when you're walking down the street, you're equipped to fix. Most people are programmed by TV and the movies to see a park that's a mess. You know, they're like, some rich guy should come fix that. When you're the one seeing it, maybe you should become the rich guy, because everybody can today. Everybody has the capability to become the rich guy. And the other part of our process is helping rich people realize they're rich. Because most people listening to this, you're doing it on a computer, or you may be broke, but you're doing it on your $1,000 iPhone while your feet are on an ottoman, or, you know, chilling in an air-conditioned apartment with carpet. It's like, you have problems, but go explain those to somebody in Mozambique and tell them how bad your problems are. You know, you're rich. Now, you may not be as rich as your brother-in-law, rich as you want to be, but you're doing really good. If you're watching this, you're doing really good, you know, compared to how things could be. So it's easier to become more rich once you embrace the fact you are rich, and it doesn't become this like negative, dirty thing.
Right.
Man, that's good. I love that. Well, you guys can probably see now why I brought on, you know, not out of bias, but out of truly I've
my favorite topic.
Everyone I've seen, but he's really sought this stuff out. It's funny, those are the 2 books you had brought up. Those are the 2 books I was going to talk about tonight. So I'm glad that you talked about those.
Spot. I mean, those are to prosperity and mindset what How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Dale Carnegie is to human relations. They're just it's hard to find a millionaire that hasn't read them. So it's probably Success Leaves Clues. That's one.
Right. That's good. I remember being like 18 years old, you gave me these books, and you're like, that was one of your things was begin studying. I remember you told me, you said there's books that you read and there's books that you study. Study is a lifestyle, study is a habit, study is a daily thing, reading is a one-time thing, and these were books you told me to study. You're like, study these, tear them apart. You gave me a highlighter and a pen. These are the first books I ever actually used a highlighter and a pen on to find out like what is in here. And then you told me that you said there's the golden thread of success, that most millionaires you're ever going to meet will have a golden thread of the fact that they are readers and avid readers. And they can point a lot of their success back to probably one of these 2 books. And I really value that. So that's good stuff.
You want to get on a fun topic with JR? It's the idea that thoughts become things, and they really do, And then you got to muddy through the stuff of, people's like religious backgrounds or what their parents told them. Money doesn't grow on trees, and all these different things that are really, you spend some time overcoming those. I wish you could just like plug in, just jack in like the Matrix, just and you could change your belief system right away. Right now I just think books are probably the best way, and then the affirmations that you read. If you came to my house, my shower's full of laminated sheets, my bathroom's full of laminated sheets, or declarations I'm reading about, with a lot of simile, like and as. I compare my marriage to being like sea otters, because they kind of hold on to each other's paws so they don't drift apart from each other at night. It's like I fill my mind with the things that I want to be doing first thing in the morning when I'm most susceptible to something sticking. And if you expose people to that, I guarantee your finances and their finances are going to take care of themselves. But if you don't focus on the mind, it's hard to outwork who you are, because no matter what you make or where you go, there you is, and it's tough to overcome it. So anyway, thank you guys for having me on here.
Okay. Would you be willing to give us like 3? Because one of the things Andrew you brought up, and this is probably what 99.99% of the people that are on this broadcast listening right now face, which is they love this, they love the content, they're excited about it, but then they're so inundated with the news and the negative coworker and the spouse that tells them you're never going to amount to anything. They're so inundated with their environment. One of the things I know that you did, what you talked about it earlier, is even while you're donating plasma, you're reading this book, but can you give like a level 1, level 2, level 3 of controlling your environment to produce a better result in here? Like what do you start with? Like a level 1 person that's like, I've never heard of these topics before. Where do they start? Somebody that's like, oh, I've heard this a lot, but I don't know what the next level would look like for me. And then somebody that's well adapted to this, but wants to take it like ratchet up one other level. What would you do to control their environment?
Man, well, I don't know about level 3. We'll get into that because it might be too far out for the level 1s to hear. But but basic starting out. Level 1 is just stop saying negative things. Create like a little accountability group and like give each other's, thing, like, have a squirt bottle like you would a cat or something. Like anytime somebody says something negative, I squirt you once or something. It's like, with your local association, with your friends, it'd be great if all 4 of us were around each other all the time, because it'd be just like this little positivity explosion, right? That's why I love going on vacation. It's not that I spend a lot of, we have an orphanage. I mean, I invest a lot of money into people who aren't where I am. But if I'm going to take a trip, I tend to like to do it with millionaires, not because of their money. It's just their thinking and talk is on such another level. It's rare, if they stub their toe, they're like, oh man, I should have watched where I was going. Not, who put this chair here? It's like, it's just a whole different way of looking at every situation, accountability and personal responsibility. But the thing you'll notice in those environments is there's not a lot of negative that's spoken. It just doesn't happen. It's like, well, you're just trying to be that way. Well, they just are that way now. But it begins with, first, just stop saying the things that you don't want to have happen. Level 1, level 2, you've now created a vacuum, and there really are no vacuums. Nature abhors a vacuum. So you're going to begin filling that space with what you do want, and it's not like just you're big, I want to be a millionaire. It's like, I want to find a good parking spot. I I want to get to the right place in line, at the TSA, or like already we get somebody gets their ticket, like, it doesn't have the TSA thing on here. You guys always do this to me, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's interesting. They always do that to him. Maybe it's him, because it doesn't happen to me. It's like things tend to work out pretty good. For me, I just meet good people, and I go through the line easy, and it's like I'll be in a long line. It's running kind of tight, and someone will come up that works there, and they'll be like, "Hey, we're gonna open up another thing. You want to come up here and go right to the front?" And I'm like, fascinating. It just, maybe I'm lucky, but you can't be lucky all the time. And it's not that bad things don't happen, but I guess I just can't remember them, so I don't give them a lot of energy. So there's probably a mixture of all these things. But step one, stop saying things you don't want to have happen, and you don't like. Step two, begin backfilling that newly created vacuum with what you do want. And today I want more high fives. When you go through TSA, you look at the guy, "Hey, what's up, bro?" When you go through the TSA thing, just like tell the guy, "Man, thanks for keeping us safe. I appreciate you doing what you do." Like, just, people say, "I don't get any referrals in my business." Well, how many referrals you give? It's like, the guy that cut your grass, does he do a good job? Or the person gave you your mortgage, you like him? Well, how much business have you sent him? None. Okay. Wow. You just answered your own question, And so, so like, just start the day. It's like, begin filling it with like, what am I looking for? I want more compliments, Well, start giving more compliments, Tell people, "Man, you're looking skinny," It's like, whatever, but just start giving more, of what you want. And I guess the next third step would be to be really intentional in the first 20 minutes, because again, I'm not going to get into a whole big scientific thing on it, but just the reality is your mind is more susceptible to what you take in during the first 20 minutes of being awake because of the wave patterns of your mind.
Right. The theta.
So you can really take it to another level there by filling your mind with what you do want in those first 20 minutes. Those are like, that's the money time right there to brainwash yourself. Even Dr. Jorge and psychologists and friends of mine don't like that term, but that's the deal. I'm brainwashing myself for success. I'm cleansing out the things that I don't want, filling with what I do. And it's just more if I do it in the first 20 minutes versus finding time later in the day. So
that's good. I love it. So good. Thank you so much. I love it.
Level 4 and 5 later.
So much notes.
Oh, there we go. She's a student.
All right.
Thanks, guys. It was an honor to be on here with you. They say you become more like the 5 people you spend the most time with. So you guys are making me younger and more energy and more exciting. And I love the association. So thank you.
Thank you for making us now. Yes.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. How cool was that?
Super cool. I love it. So I know we're kind of wrapping up on time here, so we won't go through the slides, Andrew. So we can bounce off those if you want.
Okay.
But I do want to hear actually from Olivia, because I know Olivia, you're a student of this as well. I've actually heard you speak on this exact topic before on this. But I wanted to hear some of the thoughts on what he was talking about there, and then maybe some practices that you've come up with to work on the power of your mind and the power of seeing things happen before they happen and creating things in that.
It's just so interesting when David was talking about how becoming a millionaire while acquiring $1 million. And we always say, especially for us young entrepreneurs, it's just so important to build up that personal development before we even expect any business growth, right? So, my mom actually, being very successful in this business, she's always taught us that control what you can control. And everything else that you can't control will be under your control. And it's just so interesting. It's different verbiage, but it's the same thing that David was talking about. Control what you can control, which is right here and how you speak to yourself. And there's also a saying in Chinese that, never say that you don't have money. And that's exactly the reason why we don't have enough money. And, I love the fact that, David also talked about visualizing. I think JR's law of creation cycle was so powerful, but it doesn't happen right away. You don't master it right away, but we have to, the smaller goal settings each time, and visualizing yourself on stage, visualizing yourself, what would you share if you were invited to jumping supervising coordinator, and what would you share as your power profile, right? And, whenever I was told to visualize, I remember one of the billions bulb moment was when I went to a convention, and that was when I was really trying to break through on result producing activities and trying to really get myself up to master coordinator because I was stuck in EC for a long time. But I literally visualized myself and sitting so far away from a section that was on the second floor, but I just felt the stage was so close to me. And that was the first time that I felt, wow, how can I sit so far behind? But the stage, I feel like I can own the stage. And but that comes from visualizing, reading your goal statement. What would you do? How do you get yourself on stage and present challenge? So all of those visualizing day in, day out, just clicked when you actually visualize yourself being on stage, being a success. Like JR says, we can't change our action unless we change our mind, right? Our identity. So, I think, like you said, everybody's going to go through that, billions of vote change moment. And, I think it's so important to continue to build that baby step. And I'm going to go back and read those 3 books again, because I do think I haven't read it many times, enough time, like David did. Powerful.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Well,
and even when you were out here, like this topic with Andrew and I, we just barely poked on it, and it was like bam, 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 bam. And we talked about this for even a couple of hours. We were still digging on it and kind of pulling on it, and so that. What were some of your thoughts on this topic there?
Well, I don't want to get too much into it. Just like it's like your dad. We could get really carried away with the stuff about the power of the mind, but I think what's important is to have to know that we need to work on it. No matter where we are, we still need to work on it. We still need to have set rules. That's why I'm so thankful to some of the teachings that I got from just building the business, things that I never would have learned on my own, which is read your goal statements in the morning, read your goal statement before you go to sleep. It's just simple things like that. At first, our team, we were told just to do it. We weren't told why. And even if we were told why, we probably didn't buy it. But it's just these little things. We got to trust the process. And when you control this, and when you can really put this in the right environment, everything else gets better.
So good.
Yeah.
I think the seed of what everything you're talking about, if you boil it down, starts with you got to have a vision of where your life can go. And if you don't have that yet, that might be something you need to stir up. So step 1 sometimes is having a why night. Like why are you wanting to do this business? Why are you wanting to do what you're doing? what would prosperity bring to you? And talk about these things, stirring that up inside yourself, and then building it up, and then that's the amateur level is going from I know what the why is. Professional level is reminding yourself every single day of what your why is, because it's easy to be distracted by your environment, and get thrown off from it. Like when I went to coaching sessions with my parents, and I'm like, they lived in Houston, Texas. I lived in Redding, California, and I wanted the what do I need to do? What's the next step? What strategy? I had this big whiteboard. I dropped my entire organization on this whiteboard. This was at master to professional, and then professional to supervising again. So this was two rungs there, master to senior master. I went out there. I bought my own ticket, flew my way out there, ready to learn the real strategies, the real secrets to success. And we barely ever once talked about the whiteboard stuff. 99% of the time they spent talking about what am I thinking about? What is the 20 minutes in the morning start with? And going through hacks and things and tools and things that they would give us to grow in that first 20 minutes and what's going on in here, way more than we would ever talk about. And I noticed always within about 90 days of going and spending time with them to learn these things, we'd always pop another level, and had very little to do with strategy and a lot more to do with vision. So I think if you're looking for that next level, focus on the vision of what you're wanting, less than to do on the tactic or the strategy. When you have the tactic or the strategy as the focus without the vision, you're going to lose the momentum. But if you have the vision as the main focus, the tactic and strategies are going to come, and you're not even going to realize exactly what step it was to get there. You focus on getting to the summit of the mountain more than you did on the individual path you're going to take to get there. So homework for this week, this was my week, so I'm going to give you guys the homework assignment this week. Number 1, get these books. If you don't already have these books, get these books. These are pennies on the dollar. a fraction of a penny on the dollar for what you're going to get the return on your investment for.
Mm-hmm.
They're so powerful, worth their weight in gold. I would challenge you to find a millionaire that has not read these books or is not studied these books. I would get this one on your nightstand and read it this week. Start on this week. It's a little tougher to read, like Dad said, but it's 10 minutes. Focus on the chapter. Start reading a chapter. Start reading a paragraph and meditate on the paragraph. Think on that paragraph and really try to apply that to your life. So that's a nighttime thing. So get these, start reading them at night, and then in the morning, and the very first thing before your feet hit the ground, if you got your schedule down, you got to be at work at 8 o'clock, and so you got to get out of bed at 7 o'clock, and so you got your system down. Set your alarm 10 minutes early, but when your alarm goes off, spend 10 minutes thinking through the ultimate version of that day. Spend 10 minutes meditating on win-win situations. What would today look like if it went its best? Most people meditate on how bad things can go. And they think on, I got this report at school, I got this thing at work, and I got to get to, my boss wants to have this, and they avoid the conversations. But if you go into the day thinking, how great would this conversation, what's the ultimate version of this conversation? What's the ultimate version of this situation? And creating win-win situations in your life. But spend the first 10 minutes of your day meditating on that. And then by next Tuesday, I think you'll be shocked at how quickly the results will come. Most things are planted and then fruit comes later. This would be a pretty dramatic, quick fruit in your life if you spend 10 minutes in the morning meditating on what you want and 10 minutes at night and planting seeds into your brain that are going to change your future.
Love it. Thank you. And also to our viewers here, we did get a couple of questions about follow-up that we will get to next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about increasing sales and also follow-up, combining it together. Thanks so much, Colton and Olivia. This is always the highlight of my week. So appreciate you guys. And what a treat today.
That was fun.